Hey everybody, let me turn down that. So we are at the Western for this will be the start of the video. We're gonna, the last video I put up, I said I had quite a big update about Sarah, and it is a big update, so we'll get to that in a second. However, we're currently here at the Western for a second appointment in a week. This one's to do with something I'll discuss in a few minutes, but it's to do with the bladder. It's a urology appointment. And we've been here for almost 45 minutes. 30 odd minutes?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. And we are in the same place we were. Oh no, tell a lie. Can you see that white car there? Don't mind my back camera, but that white car right there, don't worry, she can't see us because I've got tinted windows, but that car right there, we were there 40 minutes ago, but now we're here, and this is what we see. Now this is disabled parking, and I don't want to turn into one of those guys, but I've never parked in disabled spaces unless Sarah's been with me, but we've never had a disabled badge, which Sarah does. We wouldn't do that because you just don't do that. However, they're all disabled spaces, and being the sad 45-year-old that I am, that doesn't have a badge. That I counted 10 cars in all the section. That one right there, that blue one, does, because it was an old couple that just turned up. But as a result, we're now here for, like I say, about 40 minutes. Sarah's appointment's in 15 minutes. Hold on, let me turn you back. Wait, hold on. There's another car leaving, right? So a car already left 10-15 minutes ago from a space behind that silver one. So you've got blue Renault, something there, and then there's an empty car.
I think the
there's an
barrier's
empty
broken.
space behind that car, behind it. But the barrier down there won't open.
Oh, there's somebody else, I think.
There's somebody else going to leave, so there's spaces, but we can't get in. So, for people who are familiar with coming to the Western, this is quite a normal thing. For people who are in like America or various other countries or have never been to the Western, they might be thinking, you should have maybe came a wee bit earlier. Yeah, we did. We came an hour earlier, and it didn't make any fucking difference. So, that's it.
It's not working.
I don't think the barrier's working. So, that's the update for this part of the video. But Sarah's gone in to get, because she was in the hospital for...
Look, here we go.
Oh, hold on a second.
Now.
Here we go. This guy's trying to get out, but you can't reverse route. There's 4 or 5 cars behind us. There's it's not going to happen. So this is at few minutes. I think the barrier's fucked. That's what's happening.
Because that's 3 cars now, and it's not opening.
So yeah, we think the barrier's fucked. But in the meantime, I'll give you a slight update.
Aye, you were wanting to say.
When Sarah was in the hospital for that 77 days, she had a catheter for 77 days. Did they change the catheter? Once. They changed it once, which is that's no negligent, that's just the way it had to be. But as a result, when they took the catheter out, like the day or two before, however long it was before she left, 2 days before she left, she was in a lot of pain, and they say to her, because you've had a catheter so long, that's sort of to be expected. However, that's been since the 1st of July, and we're now on the, what's the date? 4th of February, and she's in worse pain than she was when she came out of hospital. Bladder fills up, causes the worst pain ever. During the pee, no pain. Right after the pee, searing pain. And I mean, I'm talking, if 10 is the pain that you can't stand and you want to hang yourself,
cramping.
what pain?
It's cramping.
10 is the worst pain ever.
Oh, I'd say an 8.
An 8, and that's Sarah. Sarah deals with pain, as you're probably aware. So
and then you look at my hair, it's awful.
She's having difficulty with her hair because it's grown in so fucking thick. Anyway, I digress.
Curly.
It's curly now.
It's curly.
So we've looked into it, and obviously we're not doctors. It might come as a surprise. But what Sarah thinks is happening is there's this thing called
interstitial cystitis,
which basically, for our terms, the bladder, it films a layer over the top of the bladder.
No. It's, that's the other word for that is painful bladder syndrome.
Right.
And that means there can be lesions or inflammation or anything like that. But also you can have something called like when you get your negative P tests, but you could still have a urine infection that's called an embedded UTI.
There we go.
So what normally happens with that is it embeds in your bladder, and then it can form a film over it where it makes it hard for antibiotics to get
in,
basically.
So what you need is a prolonged low dose of antibiotics to break through, and we're thinking that's what it might be. It sounds really weird to say, but that's what we're hoping it is.
Oh, if they find
Because there's nothing worse when you go to the hospital and they find nothing. We're fucking moving.
Oh my god.
We're moving. That's because it's definitely the barrier's fucked. Right, I need to go. Speak to you in a minute. Okay, bye. Hey, everybody. Hello. We're back home, as you can well see. Sorry for the abrupt pause during that video, but it turns out, and we had no way of knowing this, but it turns out by the looks of it, when the barrier stops working, you've got to press the button and speak to somebody, and the person 5 cars ahead of us done fuck all. So we sat there for half an hour for no fucking reason. But we're back. We're in. Wasn't fun, was it? No. There was major trauma, flashbacks, just being in the hospital, having to put a gown on, being in a room. I'll maybe go into that later on, but it was fairly horrible for Sarah, bless her. But she managed it, she'd done it. And unfortunately and fortunately, they found nothing. I got to go into the room with her, which is unusual. I say operating room, it's not an operation, a procedural room, aye. And I got to see the camera on the screen that was inside her bladder and all that, and he was explaining it to me. Now, I'm no laughing. I'm just saying this is the gentleman's name. Dr. Ronald Donut. I kid you, I kid you not. But Dr. Donut was lovely. What you tend to find when your partner's going through like cancer, for example, or 77 days stays in hospital, a lot of people will just ignore you, the person who's not in the bed. But some of them also won't, and he was lovely. He spoke to me as well as Sarah, which was nice. But they didn't find anything. Bladder looks fine. The kidney tubes that go from the kidney into the bladder, they were all fine. The colour was fine. There was no inflammation, no redness, and I could see all that as well. The veins weren't swollen. So yeah, we don't know. So Sarah, after it, had a few minutes to speak to him, Dr. Donut, and ask him some questions. And one of the things that she asked him was, does he think it could be a embedded UTI? Which I need to look back on the footage. It'll not matter if I say it again. But what that means is, I tried to mention it before when we were in the car park, but having their catheter in for like almost 80 days and then having it taken out and then maybe just getting, it's like, it's effectively what it sounds like. It's a UTI that's embedded under, it's hard to explain. Maybe imagine it as a protective layer, you know? So the antibiotics can't get through the layer to get to the infection underneath the layer. So the idea with them is you take a low dose of antibiotics for a long time, and then that way you're not penetrating it and it's away. It's getting in and getting in and getting in. That's if that's what it is. But when Sarah mentioned that to him, he actually looked at it and he went, "Oh, very good question." I think he was German. I want to say German. It was a very good question. And he said he was going to take some samples and get them cultivated in the lab. He said it'll not do any harm. So we'll find out at some point.
And I'm scared to be nurse because my blood pressure's...
she's got high blood pressure. Now, your blood pressure, if you want it to be all right, I would imagine, we're discussing this earlier, 130 over 80, 140 over 85. That's not bad. That's pretty good. Sarah's was 170 odds over 100.
No, 112.
Over 112. So 174 or 176?
Something like that.
Over 112, which is,
Ask him if I had said
you know, aye. I don't want to say heart attack levels. That's not accurate because I don't know if that is or not. But it's not good. It's fucking super high. So She does start heart blood pressure tablets this week just for a wee while to bring it down, because she does have high blood pressure anyway, and being in pain adds that on, stress adds that on, and let's not be around the bush, the fear of going back in. So it's going to be high. But a resting, calm, no pain is about 160 odds, which is still too high. So they're started on a wee course of that. Now, I did allude in the last video and at the start of this video that there was some big news, and it wasn't the best news. That's not a lie. Do you want to tell them?
What?
The bad news?
Oh, that looks like I can't get my stomach everywhere.
You want to tell them, or do you want me to tell them?
No, you can tell them.
Sure.
Yeah.
As many of you know, we have an ongoing, and we're getting updates on it now, case against certain sections of the hospital for negligence. And
that air could have been avoided.
and one of the things I don't think we mentioned before, but we've told them, is there was an incident of abuse against Sarah in the hospital as well. An old woman called Helen grabbed her by the face like this because she was taking out her air. You know, sometimes you get air up the nostrils. But when she had cancer before, I think I've told you this before, but I don't know, Matt. She had cancer before, and one thing they made a mistake and left it just for not overly long, but their oxygen was up at 100%, so her nostrils were bleeding and it was causing her a lot of pain. Same thing was happening, and she kept pulling it out. And then when she'd go away, in the ICU, you've got, let me get my fingers. You've got bed, maybe 6 beds along, then the room splits, and then there's 6 beds, and then it comes in a big U shape. And each bed's got somebody working in it, usually unconscious. Not always, but in our case, most of them were unconscious because it was ICU. And shut it, you. Each bed has a minimum at all times of one staff member at the bed, and I do mean at all times. Sarah had one called Nuala who was fantastic, and you wouldn't see her. It'd be like this. Hi, we're chatting away, such and such. I wonder where Nuala is, and she would just go, hello, and it's like, what the fuck did you come for? She was great. But when that Helen would go away, that guy next to her who was looking after this other guy, who I won't mention his name because the chances of people knowing him are nothing, but he didn't make it, unfortunately. He became, I want to say, slightly close to the family. I mentioned this before. It's the unwanted friendships you make, but he passed away. Not through negligence, and it just didn't make it. But the guy that was looking after him, when Helen would leave, now Sarah couldn't speak at this point. She had no verbal speech, so the guy himself just knew that the oxygen was too high. So he would turn it down, and then Helen would come back a few minutes and turn it right back up. And anyway, I had to come along, and Sarah asked for a wrote down phone, and Helen told her, it's past midnight, you don't get your phone yet. And it sort of treated her like she was grounded, treated her like a trail. But to put the oxygen back on, grabbed her like that, and shoved the fucking, when I came in, she had marks, and so there's a case of abuse and blah, blah, blah. And we also found out that we're 90% sure now that Sarah's big sores, and let's not beat around the bush because you know this channel and us as a family, we don't, our bald spots could have been avoided. Turns out they weren't washing her hair, brushing her hair, or even taking it out the ponytail that it was in. Now, some people, they might not, but some people might say, why couldn't you? And as soon as I was able to do these things, I was. But at the point, I'll show you one of the photographs here. The whole time she was in a coma, I couldn't get behind her. They had the dialysis machine or the tubes. This PICC line effectively keeps you alive. So I just physically couldn't get behind her. Otherwise, I would have done. And but I would have done. But none of them done that. Not until a specific woman named Louise. I was just going to say should I not mention, but I should. Louise was amazing. Louise was great. She washed it, and then she was like, "You've got a big dreadlock," which I think we showed you before. You know what? If not, I'll show you again here. So just so for context, so this is what basically she got her hair washed. She woke up from the slightly over 2 week coma, and her hair got washed 0 times in the coma, because I was there with Mum every day, and like you've seen before, I was there roughly 8 or 9 hours a day, splitting it with an hour and a half or 2 hours sometimes to come home. They didn't do it, and then I would have seen the difference, and I know they didn't. And one woman washed it the first time, and Sarah was like, Mum and I were laughing because Sarah was almost like jizzing on her knickers. She goes, oh, this is so good. Oh my God, it's fantastic. And then between that one hair wash and Sarah moving to the other part of ICU where Louise washed her hair a lot was only 4 days. And they sores and that big clump wouldn't have showed up in 4 days. So the person that washed her hair didn't mention it. Either didn't notice it, didn't mention it, or didn't care. But that was another thing. So yeah, and there are some of the many complaints. But one of the other complaints things is that we've added in now is we were told by one doctor, first of all, when you got stoma, they have to move parts of your stomach around. I've been through that before, which leaves a space. And your stomach muscles and walls and all that fill in that space, which is what a hernia is. Not exclusively, sometimes it can be other things, but that's normally what a hernia is. They forgot to tell us to wear special, I say us, when I say us, I mean Sarah, but you know what I mean. They got to tell us that Sarah should wear the special underwear or even these belts that help keep the space tight to stop a hernia forming. They didn't do that, so the hernia's there now and blah, blah, blah. And then a doctor came in and told Sarah, listen, I know you're not happy with the stoma, but in about 12 to 15 months max, we get you in, bish bash bosh, connect you back up, no problem. And he's reading our notes, and he's one of the guys performed the operation, and you know, so he's going to know, right? Another surgeon came in, Australian fella, and he says to us that, well, you know, you've got to be really careful because to reverse a stoma is just as dangerous as putting an initial stoma in. It's not keyhole, they have to open you up through these scars again, which you've all seen Sarah's scars. Then they're in there and things can go wrong. Now, nobody told us for the last almost year, that was never going to be an option, really. Are you going up for a lie down? Okay. I'll tell you, well, she's just literally been for a thing at the hospital, so you go. Away you go.
I love you.
I'm going to pause it for 1 second. Sorry, I was just giving Sarah a smoochie. Basically, we knew they had to go into Sarah's abdomen twice. Technically 3 times, but 2 separate operations. And the first one was to remove the perforated bowel section, which we found out they took out, from American people, the length of a standard school ruler. It was 30 centimetres. They took out 30 centimetres of bowel. And we were all, plenty of bowel, because if you take so much bowel, that's why people with like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or various other things.
Small bowel, no large bowel.
What? Sorry, Sarah was just interrupting me things that she thought I was saying the wrong thing, but I wasn't. She just tried to correct me even when I'm fucking right. If you basically, it's like anything. If you've got shoelaces and you take too much shoelace, you can't tie your fucking shoelaces. So if they take,
that's a good analogy.
why? Thank you. Sarah said that was a good analogy, and it was also patronising at the same time. But you know what? I'll allow it. You hear that? That's her laugh now. That's her laugh. It's so good. Basically, the second time they went in, and we found this out last week when we went to see the colorectal specialist. We found out last week that the second time they went in, they took more bowel, and nobody told us that. So basically, for those of you that don't know, the job of the large bowel, okay, your stomach, you eat your food, goes in your stomach, in your throat, down your gullet, and into your stomach. And between your stomach and your anus, or your bum hole, you have 2 bowels. You have the smaller bowel and the larger bowel. The larger bowel's job is to extract fluid from the food that you're eating, so it comes out like poop, like solid poop, like what everybody in the world poops pretty much, you know. Now, if there's not enough large bowel, they can just leave the bowel, stitch it off, and then the food just goes through the small bowel. But that almost exclusively, without fail, gives you chronic diarrhea, because the food's not getting drained of the fluid for the big bowel. You get me? So if they went in to operate on Sarah and there wasn't enough bowel, the options would be close her up, re-heal everything like she did before, do the stoma again, Or the other option would be to close off the large bowel and just use the small bowel, which then, like I said, definitely causes diarrhea. And that's all if the operation goes well. So I guess what we're saying is the surgeon pretty much told us that Sarah's, she won't be able to get rid of the stoma. It's too risky. And the risk doesn't outweigh the reward, if you like. So for the last year, we've been... Now, some people might say, you know, when you tell people lies to save their feelings, I don't do that because, you know, obviously, you know how my brain works, so I don't understand that, but I do get it. I don't fully understand it, but I get it. Maybe what happened is that they told us that you could get it reattached easily and it would definitely be able to be done to calm Sarah down because she was panicking. I don't like that, but I can understand why. But they kept that lie going for a year. And we've spoken to people since that and nobody told us. So now Sarah feels like she's maybe back a year and reliving with it again. I don't know what that feels like because I'm not inside Sarah's head. That's all exclusively her. And then, on top of that, we found out that Sarah's hernia, that we thought was huge to us, isn't that big. It probably won't get any bigger, the specialist says, but the NHS don't really like to operate on hernias unless it's causing significant distress or problems. So straight away I asked, physical distress and problems or mental distress and problems or what? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, what? And he's like, yeah. The NHS just generally don't like to operate on hernias, especially if they're not that big. And then he had a look at Sarah's and was like, although it feels big to you, it's not. He said, I've seen hernias like 2 foot out of stomachs and stuff, and NHS still won't operate on them. So that's the big news. She's almost surely not going to be able to get rid of her stoma because you can't grow back longer bowel, and I don't think they've come up with a way of grafting on bowel or anything yet. Interesting fact as well, he's a specialist. He's not, you know, you go from the bottom to the top, and then once you get to the top doctor, you become a mister again. He's a mister. He revolutionised his field with the use of lidocaine and operations and all that stuff. He really changed the field of that, like colorectal stuff. He's phenomenal. He, I says to him, so what causes IBS then? What is IBS? And they're like, he says, the truth is, we don't know. The medical field, we don't understand why IBS does what it does and what causes it. So, but yeah, it turns out that she'll have the stoma and the hernia. And the hernia probably won't go back, doesn't go back in. People, it's a myth, the myth that can happen, apparently. He says, I'm not saying it could never happen. He says, but it tends not to be, because that's your stomach. And I'm like, right, okay. So they've not completely ruled out getting the hernia done, but they said the NHS don't really like to. And I suppose we could do it privately if we wanted to, but again, it's not simple operations again, is it? And Sarah's terrified of the hospital. Like, she was crying so much today. Just, it's the first time since she came out there, she had to go back into a little room and put her dress, I get a hospital gown on, and it's the same gown, the same bed sheets, the same covers, the same floor, the same, and it's just like fucking, you know. And if I'm honest with you, I've not said this to Sarah because we never spoke about it, which we will in bed tonight, but it really triggered me. It really triggered me. I think I'm probably going to go and speak to somebody. Every now and again I have nightmares and stuff, which is, you know, I don't want to be depressing, but again, I've always said that this is real life, and I'm by far not the only person that goes through this. So yeah, it was quite triggering being back in there and like taking the responsibility role. You know, it's like, no, we'll come down this way, we take a left here, in we go, you know, and it's just took me back to being, you know, oh no, everyone's fine, aye, and then leaving the room and fucking mum and dad holding me up crying, and then it had the meltdown in Tesco's, but it wasn't quite that bad tonight because I knew she was coming home with me, but then I had to see her in pain, and it's just like, okay, right, okay. And like I said, it might sound weird to some people, but we were both slightly, we were very relieved there was no big tumours or cancer or nothing. That was great, but we were slightly disappointed there wasn't something there for him to fix. Do you know what I mean? It's way easier to fix a problem if you can see the problem. So, and there was nothing to see. But it's not done yet, though. We've still got hope. We are, despite all these miserable things, we're still fairly a positive couple. You know, we're mostly glasses half full. And yeah, that's the big update for Sarah. So, stoma's staying. Hernia's staying as well, I would imagine. And yeah, that's about it for now. Her hair's getting her hair's so thick. Like, I know people who've had chemo and, you know, stuff like that, the hair can come in a different colour or curly or whatever, but her hair's fucking insane. It's so thick, it won't take a telling, it won't go down. She's leathering it in black and white wax, and it's just it's crazy. But yeah, it's a beautiful grey colour, and it's gonna look lovely when it gets long again, which you can't wait for. But anyway, I digress. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, any other updates? There's, like I said, there's been a few things, but I've just wanted to wait and, you know, let everybody have a nice Christmas, and us as well. And because, you know, making these videos gets me a bit sad and gets Sarah a bit sad, so we didn't like to do this all the time. But I guess we've made a rod for our own backs by being so open and honest about everything. But I don't mind. You know, people that I've never met, that I'll probably never meet, you know the story. It's just the nice well-wishing and that sort of stuff. So yeah. But yeah, that's the big update. That disappointing, not gonna lie. Sarah's gutted, but you know, she's alive, she's here, so yeah, that's it. But anyway, I digress again. What's a double digression called? I don't know. Anyway, I shall see you soon, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope everybody's doing good. And I look forward to seeing you in the shop if you want tattooed, or give me a shout, give me a message, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy. Bye.